Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am more wondering about a question rather than answering one. I want to hear from you down below in the comments or in a video response about why do you think we make plans? Why do you think we make reading plans? It's been something that it's something that's been on my mind. I have a tiny confession. I have some thoughts and I want to talk about it. So if you're new to my channel, then hi, I'm Shelly. I really love books and reading. I also love thinking about our habits around reading, and lately I've been considering why we make to be read lists, why we make these kinds of lists, and how we are not alone in this list making here on booktube. So if you are into that, if you're into people who like stories and someone chatting excitedly about her reading, I would encourage you to subscribe, stick around, maybe like the video. Without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. So the thing that pushed me over the edge of actually making this video, like the final thing that made me actually want to do this, is the character of Emma in the novel Emma by Jane Austen. I'm reading this for the first time. I am both delighted and very surprised at the depth of character that Emma is. She is a very well-drawn, nuanced character. And in one of the scenes, Mr. Knightley and Mrs. Weston are talking about Emma and Emma's new friendship with a young lady in town named Harriet. And they are, in a lot of ways, Jane Austen uses this conversation between two other characters to give us a better idea of who Emma is. And so here is what Mr. Knightley said to Miss Weston about Emma and Emma's reading habits. Emma has been meaning to read more ever since she was 12 years old. I have seen a great many lists of her drawn up at various times of books that she meant to read regularly through, and very good lists they were. Very well chosen and neatly arranged, sometimes alphabetically and sometimes by some other rule. The list she drew up when only 14, I remember thinking it did her judgment so much credit that I preserved it some time, and I dare say she may have made out a very good list now. But I have done with expecting any course of steady reading with Emma. She will never submit to anything requiring industry and patience, and a subjection of the fancy to the understanding. Where Miss Taylor failed to stimulate, I may safely affirm that Harriet Smith will do nothing. You never could persuade her to read half so much as you wished. You know you could not. What I love about this scene is that it's saying that Emma is a list maker. She loves a list. She not just a list, not just a to-do list. She likes a reading list. She is all about the reading list. And I think we here on BookTube, there is like an obsession with plans. We have so many plans. We have the TBR video and plans for the next 6 months and change of plans and plans for the new year and plans for the following next, few weeks. Plans. And I am no stranger to the plan. Actually, some of my highest performing videos have been plans videos. Classics I want to read in the following year, nonfiction books I want to read in the following year. What are my plans? What are your plans? I watch plans videos too. Like, I am obsessed with them. They're like clickable. They're very clickable for me, and I love watching what someone is planning on doing. And I started to wonder why that is. And I came up with a couple of things, though these are not definitive answers on the question, why do we make plans? Why do we make reading plans specifically? But I think in some ways it has to do with the illusion of control and how we want to feel like we are in control of something. And since nobody is requiring us to do the reading list, like it's sort of, in a lot of ways, it's just it's an exercise in imagination, maybe. It is like when I am sitting down to make my plans. I'll back up a little bit. I think when I am sitting down to make my reading plans, there is a bit of an idealism in those plans, especially when I do the yearly video. How can I plan for a whole year? I don't know what that year will bring, and I'm actually going to get to that in just a minute. But when I sit down and I'm like, okay, what are the books that I want to get to in the following year? I think as much as I want to stay grounded, as much as I'm in earnest to stay grounded and not let my imagination run away with me, there is a side of me that wants to choose the books that I think will be good for me, whether I'm in the mood for them in that moment or not. I want to choose books that I've had all of the best of intentions to pick up, but I don't actually, pick them up. Or I don't know if I even want to pick them up. There is a little bit of a push and pull of the reality of what I think my life will be, or what I know my life to be, the way that I know my free time, shakes out. And that's like one side of it. And the other side is the idealism of what I want my life to be, like the kind of reader I want to be, the time I want to have to put into reading. I want to be someone who has read all of the ancients. I want to be somebody who has read all of Jane Austen's novels. But, being that reader takes a little bit of grit, a little bit of work. It's pleasurable work, but it means that I'm reading the ancients or history books, they're all wonderful, but it means that I'm reading that over maybe a fluffy mystery or a really juicy, gossipy kind of a nonfiction book, it means that I'm going to have to, put aside all of the other tempting, beautiful reads to be the reader that I want to be. And so sometimes when I'm sitting down with that list, there is that push and pull between what I know my life to be, the reader I know that I am, and then the reader that I want to be. Then also, I am somebody, and I think we have talked about this pretty well on BookTube, that sometimes when you make a plan, like a TBR video, it feels like a social contract. That all of a sudden, whether it be just with oneself or with the people that you're watching, that are watching your videos, that sometimes when you put out this plans video, whether it be a monthly TBR or one of those videos that's like the next 5 books I want to read, or or even this is what I'm planning to pick up next, or even a yearly video. Then in some ways you're like, well, people have watched it and I feel pressure now because I have entered a contract, whether it just be with myself or a social contract with those watching, that I'm going to read these books. But I think it goes even further than that. I think that people who tend to feel pressure are also people who are incredibly hard on themselves, and there is a rigidity to the contracts one makes with oneself. And I think really it's more of the rigidity. It's like, if I say I'm going to do something, by darn well I'm going to do it. Otherwise, I'm not the person that I said I was. And what are people going to think? I think it's a little bit of a people pleaser thing, at least for me. I'm speaking from experience alone. Like, what are people going to think of me if I can't hold up my end of the deal of like what I said I was going to read? And all of a sudden sometimes it like will kind of turn on itself, and I'm like, shame, shame, shame. Like, you are not reading the books that you said you were going to read, and you said you were going to read them, so you really should be reading them. And there's all this like shooting on myself and shame and feeling not good and all of that. The way that I have come about, that is that I have very much detached. Usually my plans videos are in terms of like what I put out on the internet, and maybe this will be helpful and maybe not, but my plans videos are very loose, and I have come to realize that like in a lot of ways my plans, my TBR videos are a snapshot of what I think I may read for the following month, but there is really very little pressure, very, very, very little like, I don't know. I don't hold myself super closely to that social contract of saying I'm going to read it. And then if I don't, I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I didn't get to it this month, but it doesn't mean that those books aren't there for me to read in another month. And sometimes things change and life has its own fluidity and we go from there. And usually that's definitely how I have come to realize about my video making, my social TBR contracts with you all, with myself, in terms of like what I want to read and then, you know, what I actually read. And sometimes I have plans with other people, which means I'm definitely more likely going to read the books if I have set a plan with someone else, because then it actually is a contract with that other person. And we've had a discussion and a momentum. We have had a discussion about that book. That book now has its own momentum. I want to read it with that person because of the discussion and the memories and the connection that it will create. And so for that, like when I'm sharing plans about what I'm reading with others, that doesn't stress me out at all. And then the books that I am going to just possibly read for myself, I just think they're just plans, like, and plans change because life changes on a dime, which will actually bring me to kind of my last point on this rambly discussion video. And it is that I made 2 videos and I made 2 videos of 10 books each that I want to read. I did 10 classics and I did 10 nonfiction books I want to read. I made those at the end of December, like sometime in December, I made these 2 videos and I had some really great choices on there. I had Moby Dick and the Macchiaco sisters. You would think I would remember. Patricia Highsmith's The Talented Mr. Ripley. These are the classics that I wanted to read. A Custom in the Country by Edith Wharton. I had an Ovid's Metamorphosis. I had 10 books that I felt really excited to read. And then I had 10 nonfiction. So I've read 0, just so you know. Like, it's a little bit of a confessions over here. I have read 0 of the classics that I said I was going to read. And I also had 10 nonfiction. I had like 5 like nature ebooks and then a couple of history books. And I have read 2 from that list. The first one being After the Romanovs by Helen Rappaport, and the second being Fox and I by Catherine Raven. 2 of the 8, and we are more than halfway through the year. And I have been reflecting as to why this year has gone so poorly in terms of my own plans. Usually, I mean, I'll get to, I don't know, 70%, I would say. 60 to 70% of the books that I said I was going to read in annual videos, because I've been doing annual plan videos like for the year for years. I've done YouTube for 3 full years. I am working on my 4th. I'm a month or so into my 4th year on booktube, and I have done yearly videos, like my plans for the following year, for years now. And this year I have just failed tremendously. I truly, and that's okay. I don't really think of myself as a failure because I think I know what happened. And I think I've been processing this ever since I've been wanting to make this discussion video about plans. I think what happened is that life happened. And what I mean is that in January, we lost a beautiful soul. We lost Jennifer Brooks. And I really connected with Jennifer's videos. We didn't talk like via Voxer or online, but like there was this sense with her that I watched her videos and she watched mine. She would reference me in hers and I would reference her in mine. And she didn't live far from me. She played this place in my heart and mind of somebody that I thought I was going to meet one day, like for sure, because she only lived like 3 hours away. And when Jennifer Brooks died incredibly unexpectedly, and I don't mean to make this a sad video, but I think it's important to say, she just died very unexpectedly, and that happened right in January. And I think one of her last videos was plans for the future, and it just really rocked me. It rocked me. I know that many of you are still grieving her, and I think about her all the time. And I think that really changed my plans for the year. But I didn't know that when it happened. How could you know something like that when it happens? But it really shaped me. It really shaped. I think I just wanted to like throw caution to the wind and like, what's the point of plans? And I don't know. I think I had all of this stuff going on, like subconsciously, not actually saying it. But I from there, I with Jennifer on my mind, I was thinking about her favorite reads and books that reminded me of her. And all of a sudden, my plans videos for 2024 just didn't seem as important. And then I was making plans for the second half of the year, knowing that my first half of the year really didn't go to plan. And I was enjoying the illusion of control. I was enjoying putting together a list. It was going to be this kind of like loose, like more prompts-based list for the second half of the year to help like encourage me, but without specific titles in mind. And then, as you all know, like my sweet friend Alice passed. And it's really changed the shape of our community in this last 2 months, because there are a lot of people who haven't been posting. She obviously she's not, her channel is not going to be posting anymore. And that's been really hard to think about and to process. And I know that there is more than just these two women, but these are the two women that have affected me. And I know that there are people out there that have affected you, whether they leave booktube or whether they leave booktube, because of life circumstances, or they leave for other reasons. And so anyway, so Alice, her passing, it just made, it's like, what? I don't know, it's sort of like this existential, like, why am I making plans? Why am I want to enjoy my reading life. I don't mind sort of loose plans, but why am I like trying to control and shape and mold my reading life into this thing, and like to present it all beautifully, and then hopefully moving forward, then I have these plans, and who knows if I'll execute them or not, but I'll definitely put a lot of pressure on myself to execute them, because I now have a social contract with myself that I declared publicly. But and so then it's like I want to be able to grieve and process and think about Alice and booktube and our booktube community in a very like organic and natural way. And so suddenly the plans that I was embarking on, it's almost like they turn to sawdust in my hands. So I don't know. I don't know. So I guess I was just saying that I have made plans, and they've kind of crumbled as I've tried to, as I've tried to execute them, as life has continued to happen, and things, change us and shape us that we didn't expect or didn't plan on. And yet, and I'll leave this on more of a positive note, and yet I feel like my making plans, just like Emma made plans, there is a distinct pleasure in that. I think that the best side of making bookish plans, like book lists, is there's this enjoyment of the research and putting little groupings together and coming up with ideas of like pairings to read. But as Mr. Knightley points out, you have to have a kind of grit to execute those plans. and sometimes life is hard as it is. Life is challenging as it is. And so sometimes I don't know if I'm like sort of ready for the grit to execute the plans. But I'll go back to like, there is this immense pleasure in making plans, to have everything look like kind of fit together, the puzzle work that it takes to have everything kind of come together in this beautiful shape that you can show somebody and that somebody else will appreciate the shape of the plans that you made. And there's an enjoyment in enjoying the things that I own. So often when I make plans, I'm looking at my own shelves, I'm diving back into my own collection, I'm looking at the books that I own that I sort of dream that they're going to be a favorite one day. I'm going to love it. I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be a whole thing. Like this will be my new favorite author. This will be the beginning of a wonderful and beautiful friendship between me and this author's collection of works. And it's going to be amazing. And I think that joy and excitement and love for books and reading is what continues to make me want to make plans. If that makes sense. Like it propels me to not give up planning for the future. And then it's like, I think then ultimately one must have, I don't want to say like a healing relationship, but one also needs to be very gentle on oneself. I say this for myself. When I make plans and it starts to feel like pressure, I have to remember, like, look, it's okay. Life changes. Things happen. You cannot know if one of my children will get sick, if I get sick, if something happens, if life throws you a curveball and things have to change, then it's okay that you're not sticking with this exact plan. And to remember that and to have, grace and gentleness on oneself is so important and really probably the key to making plans. Like even the best laid plans don't always come to fruition. What is it? There's like that famous saying. Y'all are probably already writing it in the comments, for which I am grateful for you to do. But I've rambled and rambled and rambled about plans. Obviously, this has been a real like thing for me, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And then when I was like, oh my gosh, Emma makes plans and she makes reading plans, and there's a joy and a love in that, but you can't just make plans, girl. You have to also like execute the plans. And we don't want to all just be Emma and make the plans. I want to execute the plans as well. So yeah, so I guess that was just kind of my chatty, rambly thoughts about plans. Thank you so much. Tell me your thoughts down below about making plans and what that means to you and your relationship to them, and what is, tell me all about it. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye.